don't believe you have borderline. I believe that you get extremely stressed out because you learned in your childhood that no matter what the issue is, big or small, you're on your fucking own. You're on your own. You know, you can't rely on anybody, and and every time you would get attached to a friend who might be able to offer you support, it got ripped away from you. You moved 8 fucking times.
Yep.
In the military, you lost them out of nowhere, didn't see it coming. So you learned a whole lot of things to keep you safe. You don't have to, because I have nameplates turned off, you don't have to give your exact name, but like, what would you like to be called?
You can just turn my name on or whatever you want, just Jambi.
Okay. Alright. Jambi. And same thing with age, you don't have to give the exact age range, but like roughly, you know, how old are you?
Young adult.
Young adult. Alright. Is that like 20s or?
Yeah.
Okay. So where were you born and where do you live now?
I was born in Woodbury, New Jersey, and I live in Ohio.
Okay. What languages do you know, and are there any you're interested in learning?
I only know English. I know the sign language that qualifies as one, and I know a little bit of German, but I'm interested in learning the entirety and being before.
So I'm sorry to do this to you, but I'm gonna ask the most difficult and controversial question. Are you ready?
Oh, fun. Yep.
What is your favorite color?
Fuck. Mint or seafoam green?
Mint or seafoam green? I really like the specific detailing of that, the specific colors. Yeah. Okay. So why
Very vintage.
why those shades?
They're easy to look at. They're kind of a vintage inspired one, and they just have a very like calming look to them.
Okay.
More like nature inspired instead of man-made.
Sounds like you prefer things that are more organic than man-made.
Yes.
What brings you to be your best self?
Being around a good group of people. A good group of people just varies person to person. For me, it could just be people I skate with or people I work with.
I have answered this before, but I'll ask it again. On a scale of 0 to 10, how much do you lie to yourself? 0 being I lie to myself all the time, 10 being I'm very truthful with myself.
We'll put it 5.
Alright. Right in the middle, you know, there are reasons why, you know, I have to lie, but also at the same time I acknowledge I need to be honest with myself. Right in the middle.
I guess we'll start off with the first one, military. So I enlisted in June of last year. Went through all basic, made two really good friends. We went through everything together and just formed that bond between us. And we make it into AIT, we all share similar MLSs, so we're all stationed together. And about 2 months into it, we were just talking one night, and it was just pretty average conversation, just bullshitting about PT and regular goings on, food, etc. And I go into the barracks, and about 3 hours after lights out, so about 2 a.m., 1 a.m., a.m., I don't know. I see an ambulance light outside, and that wakes me up because it's right outside of my window. And I see them wheeling a body on the cart, and it's one of my friends. Find out the next morning he hung himself fucking over the night, and it's just a kind of a fucking shock. No warning, no words, nothing, just gone. A month later, the second friend follows suit. And following that, I was evaluated and given you 7 new fucking mental disorders, and barred from service and discharged.
Okay. So first of all, that sounds really fucking rough, because like you come into service and you have a friend that you can rely on, and you guys spent a lot of time together, you bonded, had each other's backs, but then that was just sort of ripped away from you like a band-aid that didn't just kind of rip the scab off, but kind of like took your whole leg off.
Both of them just gone in a month's span.
And then, if I heard the rest correctly, you were kind of in shock, and that sent you into a dark place, and you were struggling to adjust, and you go seek mental health help, and then they, barred you right out of the military.
Yep. More or less, that's how it went.
So I know we had talked about before, and like we can't do therapy over the internet. Disclaimer. But you had mentioned a particular diagnosis that I did not give you by any means, and that someone else gave you. So if we're talking about that diagnosis, do you feel that it was accurate, or were they just slapping it on you to get you out of service?
I feel like it was accurate, honestly. It wasn't provided by the Army, it was provided by Navy. Completely separate branch. There's nobody in my chain of command, nobody involved with me. It was a professional evaluation, and that was what they deemed it to be.
Would you be willing to talk like more about that and like what that's like?
To be honest, I don't understand what it's like. I just know that it means that I can't deal with stress that well. It's BPD. Fucking, you would know what the acronym stands for. I really don't, because I just don't remember at this point.
Borderline personality
disorder.
Yeah.
I knew it was a personality disorder. I just couldn't remember what it was.
Well, see, so that's interesting. Is that the first time that you sought mental health help through the military?
The military, yeah. I mean, this all happened in 6 months, dude.
So you never saw a therapist or anything like that outside of the military?
Not yet. I had a lot more pressing things to deal with immediately following my discharge.
Yeah, definitely with the transition, finding a job, friends, family, where you're gonna be, just a whole lot of adjustment. I don't know how much you've sort of reflected on that, but for those out there who might be experiencing the same thing, I guess, what is your understanding of like what they told you?
Since it was handled outside of the Army, being just through the Navy's medical staffing, whatever you like to call it. Trust what they say, honestly. If it's not being handled by your chain of command and it's completely outside, or it's just somebody you don't even know that has no effect on your, I
Well,
guess your status, your stature, trust what they say.
how do you understand what they told you? I mean, like, so when they
Oh, yeah, I completely fucking missed the point. Not surprising, though.
yeah, so like how do you understand, like, you know, and I'm not the type to like label anybody and saying you have this thing or this diagnosis, so like therefore you are this, but like if you're saying that it's pretty true, then we'll say that the things you experience might not completely be this diagnosis, but like you still experience some of these things. So like help us understand those things. So like with borderline personality disorder, like what did they tell you about it?
They told me it causes a reaction to stress that is more adverse than normal, so if you're put under stress, you don't deal with it in proper ways, so to speak. Like small amounts of stress amount to larger ones, despite what the issue could be. It'd be something as like, um, trying to think of like a decent situation to compare it to, but
Well, I mean,
it just means small stress builds up to larger, I guess. I don't know.
oh, I was gonna say like you lost your job or you're moving out the military or you car shopping. Car is that stressful?
Very, very, very stressful.
Okay. Um so when you get stressed out, you're saying that it's hard to manage.
Yes.
And because it's hard to manage, it sounds as though there are times where things kind of get out of control or spiral or get worse.
Yes.
Okay. What does that look like?
Um, I guess a good way to put it into words is just like constant, like going back to it. So like you could be trying to get your mind off of it, do something else, and it'll just be an immediate snap back to it, and it will just be amounting to more and more each time.
Mm. So you have a problem, and the way they describe it is most people could step back, take a break from it, okay, whatever, go find a distraction or something to enjoy themselves with. Whereas you kind of try to do that, but then your mind kind of just comes back to it. And then rather than like 3 out of 10 stress, you're now at 5 out of 10. And now you have even more reason to get away from it, and then the same thing happens again.
Yeah, it goes up. It's like 5 out of 10 and 6 out of 10, and then just back and forth and back and forth.
What's the most difficult thing that you've had to deal with because of this issue?
Death of family members.
Hmm.
Talking about BBD, yeah, it's just, it's still there. I haven't really had time to
Well, I meant the
seek the treatment
passing.
for it, do what's, um, it was dealt with in a way that I can be comfortable with.
Okay. Huh. How often does it happen where you stress out about things and try to get away from it and then kind of snap back to it?
It's kind of constant, I'm not even gonna lie.
Hmm. So, has this happened like your whole life, or did it start at a particular age?
Say about good, like, 4 years. Just didn't know what it was. Thought it was just anxiety, and then I was just like, hey, here's this.
So it sounds like somewhere in your teens, you started becoming more aware and self-conscious of things about the future, and then once you started having things that kind of added stress to your life, that's when you noticed that you're like, whoa, like I actually am having trouble managing stress. And it kind of spirals from there. And ever since then, it's been a daily occurrence of kind of struggling to manage. So it sounds like, so this is a current thing that you're dealing with. So then we'd sort of move to like, what helps the most for managing this issue?
I just forced myself to play music. It's about a hit. Or go just do something outside, skate, take a walk, go for a hike. It's just what I enjoy.
Sounds like you have some coping skills and some grounding techniques that are what I call out of the moment coping skills. But let's say you can't go for a hike or you can't listen to music. What are some things you can do in the moment to manage the issue?
Honestly, for that, I've got nothing. I just use like nicotine as a crutch, I guess.
On the flip side, before we maybe look more into that, what makes things worse?
Having more things piling on top of what I'm already stressing about.
Would you say that like this is your number one present issue that you're dealing with?
Number one or number two.
Okay. First things that comes to mind is, it could be something that you learned, or it could be something that you sort of programmed. Is there at any point in your life, is there ever something that required you to think and think and think, and if you didn't think enough, there would be a huge consequence?
I mean, everybody has that time in their life where they overthink what the fuck they're gonna do for their life, but that didn't really hit me as hard.
How did you handle stress when you're like a kid to early teenager?
Played video games and watched cartoons. That's pretty much all I did around that age group.
So you just never had it was pretty carefree life, nothing that kind of stressed you out. No I guess like what I sort of imagine is like no pressure with grades or like sports.
There was definitely that. Didn't play sports.
So there's pressure with grades.
Yeah, I was a fuck up during that whole age. I just didn't give a shit about school. I got like no assignments done, but whenever I took a test, it'd be like some perfect day.
Hey, that's interesting. So you're like, fuck the homework, but like I'm actually smart enough to ace the test.
I was considered gifted.
That's interesting. So were you considered to be ahead of your other classmates?
Oh yeah. Up until like 5th grade when I was just like, you know what? I don't give a shit.
Well, you said you didn't give a shit before, but is it that like you spent a little bit of time of things you're maybe interested in, and then like that's how you ace the test? Like, are you like a really good listener or photographic memory?
Yeah, I never studied. I literally just fucking left all my like homework and everything in my bag. I could walk in on like a Friday or whenever we had a test and go like, alright, here's an A. No shit. I read all class, slept all class, and I'd still get an A.
So it sounds like...
I didn't, like even in math, I didn't use a calculator half the time.
Huh. So it sounds like growing up, things are pretty relaxed. You didn't really have to try. You didn't really have to worry about everything because it all came naturally to you. It was easy for you.
Yeah, I guess, especially with school, it's just like, here's a piece of paper, get an A, there you go, Merry Christmas.
How long did this go on for?
All my schooling.
Did this include military training as well?
That was different. That was actually having to pay attention.
And how did that feel when you had to forcefully pay attention?
Pretty good because the, topic of electricity is pretty interesting to me, so.
I mean, it makes sense that, like, the things that you're interested in, it never really feels like work.
Exactly.
But one pattern I am sort of hearing, though, is that you were never really challenged in both dynamics. One being, like, mentally, and then the other being, like, emotionally, like stress tolerance, resilience. And it sounds as though once you had to start figuring out like what you're going to do for the future, that was like extremely stressful. And
I wouldn't
that's
say home life as a kid was definitely far from stress-free, but that is not a topic I wish to get into right now.
That is usually where the smoking gun lies. And it's fine, like, if you don't
Oh,
want...
trust me, it does.
It's fine if, like, you don't want to talk about it. It's like, maybe we could talk about other things. But, like, at the same time, it also might be the most relatable. Is there any way you might be able to tiptoe around it? The big issues?
Just give a little synopsis, I guess. Dirt core moved 8 times.
Okay. That's very helpful. Okay, so that's something to work with.
Was no friends until high school. That was an interesting thing.
Okay. Have you ever truly felt supported?
No. In all honesty, no.
Ding, 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 ding. There it is.
Exactly.
Right. I don't believe you have borderline. I believe that you get extremely stressed out because you learned in your childhood that no matter what the issue is, big or small, you're on your fucking own. You're on your own. You can't rely on anybody, and and every time you would get attached to a friend who might be able to offer you support, it get ripped away from you. You moved 8 fucking times.
Yep.
In the military, you lost them out of nowhere, didn't see it coming. So you learned a whole lot of things to keep you safe. And I wouldn't say that you have a hard time managing stress. I would just say, like, that's one hell of like tangled cords. it's hard for you to make friends because you struggle with getting attached to them, and then like you've never felt support, so that feels hard for you, and you know, and then life is hard on top of that. And then when things stack, like that's normally for like anybody, like that's really hard to deal with. It's like, of course that
Right.
makes sense. Yeah, good.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, but I don't know. All I got is a fucking sheet of paper that's like, hey, you're fucked up.
Well, I would at least say, you know, I don't believe that. I think you just had a really unfavorable hand, and you know, you had many moments in your life that was asking for a royal flush, and all you had was like a pair of twos, and you're like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this?
Fuck is this thing? What do I do with it?
You're like, well, okay, I'll fucking play my twos. Like, you fucking happy? Like, fuck. And then you sort of learned, like, you know, like, fuck it, like I'm only gonna have a pair of twos. This is all I got. This is me, you know, like, and like I can't, like the game's rigged. You know, I keep moving. The second I get close to someone, if I can get ripped away from me.
Exactly. It's not fun whatsoever.
Oh yeah, of course, because it's, you know, like the world we live in is growing increasingly stressful and competitive, and you know, it's almost like cruel to sort of like, it's like say like 10 to 30 years ago, like the difficulty was like normal, and then like slowly over time newer generations are like, it's getting like cranked up to like, you know, like master mode, or like fucking 8, 9, 10 out of 10 difficulty, and like you start the game with like fucked up stats and like poison and curse and all these ailments on you. And you're like, what the fuck, man? I'm like trying to figure out my life here, and fucking get a car and figure out where I live, and like,
It's just like, bro, why the fuck do I hear boss music?
except your fucking boss music has never turned off, because like you've just never had help. Like it's like you're like fresh out the gates, and you're like maybe like level 5, you know, as like a kid sort of like, you know, can get to on his own, and then like, you know, you need your parents' help to get to like level 10, but like that never happened. So you've had to take on every challenge in life at level 5, and you're like, fuck, this is extremely difficult. This is unfair. And you're doing it. But like, it's, holy fuck, this sucks. Because it's like, if you've ever played a game where the thing you're fighting is like it's a sponge, like you do 1 fucking damage on it, and like you gotta hit it like 10,000 times before it dies, it's like extremely frustrating.
It's like the training level. You just can't kill the enemy there. It's just literally there for you to test DPS. And you're like, what the fuck do I do, man?
Yeah, I can't kill the training dummy. Yeah, that's damn. Well, again, so it's kind of hard, like I can include most of what I said, right? But I guess yeah, I haven't done anything therapy related. Just kind of like talking about experiences, and I say, okay, so maybe we can use the help of gamer wisdom. So let's see, you're level 5, life requires you to be level 20, you got a grind ahead of you, you know, so what do we do as gamers to sort of, you know, get to level 20? And so let's also know that level 10 plus, it's super difficult to do without help, without party members, right? Like you can try as you might to like go into like, let's say a heroic dungeon in WoW or something like that and try to solo it, but eventually you're gonna get brick walled and like you need some help. You know, you can be a solo player all you want, but eventually you're gonna you know, reach a stopping point. So like, what do we do?
It's a fair point. You just gotta grind the fuck out of everything until you get there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what is really helpful for grinding, or like what's helpful and like what's efficient? Like how do you be a good
Honestly,
grinder?
trying to find fucking trying to find something you really fucking love, whether it be hobbies, your job, fucking, it could be the simplest shit. It could just be standing and watching the fucking sunrise. That is like a whole fucking refresh. It just gives you so much energy, man. Like, I found a job I fucking love. I got hobbies. I got shit I wanna fucking do now. It's just like, well, there we go. That's how you grind.
Yeah, so rather than having a label slapped on you, it sounds as though, you know, you've kind of leveled up a bit like along your journey, and like, holy shit, going into the military under leveled is like, that's fucking cruel. And you know, there's all sorts of opinions you could have about staying in versus getting out. But I'd say I would say that, you know, it probably was a good decision, because being under leveled in that environment would kind of lead to you dying, even if we're talking metaphorically.
The one disclaimer I have for that, I was not given the option after the evaluation. It was discharged, no matter what.
Would you have stayed in, given the choice?
As of right now, with how things are going back home, if I had known what both options could have picked, I could give you a better answer, but for right now, I don't know.
One thing I'd like to point out is, like, you know, it sounds as though you have good perseverance. You know, maybe you didn't understand it until a more recent time, but you had some sort of feeling, or like, this is what I imagine, that you were under leveled and like, this is bullshit, but like, you kept going anyways, like, against all odds.
That's a pretty valid way to look at it, I guess. To take the compliment.
and how would you phrase it? Would you say it like that?
No, that's honestly probably the best way you gotta phrase that.
So how do we be a good grinder? Well, if we were to put it in gamer terms, you know, find something, well, I guess in between, find something good. And when you find something good, stick with it. And like, you could be grinding a spot, grinding XP or whatever, and like, you throw some music on, you get into a trance, and before you know it, you've made that grind. You find a job you love, you know, you find a car, you find a place to live, you figure things out. You do what you love to do to sort of mitigate that monotonous grind or things that stress you out, and eventually you get enough, you know, experience to not be under leveled anymore. Because when you're under leveled, things are stressful. Like, one thing hits you and like, your fucking 75% of your health is gone, and then like, you're one shot after that. But like,
Just become the ultimate glass cannon.
But the problem with that is let's imagine the durability of your gear is like your mental health. Eventually your gear is gonna break because you're taking too much heavy hits.
So it's like Dark Souls 2, is what you're saying.
I mean, it's a lot of games actually. It's just typical armor weapon durability. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like practical ways of like anything else you can maybe do other than like like patience, hanging in there, keep doing what you're doing, and like improving your coping skills. Finding a genuine support system, and then like sort of exploring what that might feel like, and like if you push people away, we probably be something to touch on. Okay, so here's like sort of like what I've heard so far. Okay, you're a gifted, you were a gifted kid. You're a very intelligent person, and we're sort of on the same spectrum when it comes to that, because like if there's not something that we're interested in, like fuck everything else. Like this is boring, this is stupid, this is a waste of time. I slept in class, I fucking completed all the stuff in like one go. Like we had like I don't know, like AM or AR. It was like accelerated reading and math.
Accelerated reading.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd fucking get all the points in like days or like a week. Fucking Harry Potter book, done. Fucking do like 10 packets, done for like the whole
I was like
semester.
fucking 3 months ahead at all times on that shit.
Exactly. So then, like what sort of happens is like, well, we don't really fit in as much with other people, because like when you're sort of ahead of the curve like that, you like everything else is sort of accelerated, and like what it's sort of like if you're like level 45 hanging out with like level 20s, and you're like, yeah, this is fine, I don't mind helping you out, but like I have like I want to get to level 50, and like I have these like problems on my plate, and it's just like I want to go do that. So it's like you're in this weird space of like, I don't want to be mean, but like I also want to do something that interests me. Like I want to I don't want to be bored all the time. So then that makes it hard to sort of make close friends. You could have superficial friends, and that's fine. You could hang out with them, party with them, have fun with them, whatever. But you like don't really have that close relationship.
That bond.
And that sucks, because you see things that they aren't really aware of, and like if you were to point it out to them, they'd hate you for it. And like you don't want to do that.
Exactly.
So then like what options do you really have? Fucking put your head in the sand and just fucking drink or smoke your life away, or stick out the loneliness and kind of give yourself some time to meet people who are on your same wavelength. Problem with that one though is you got to stick
Patience.
it out. Patience, yeah. And you never know how long you might be waiting. I didn't find a person that I consider one of the most important people in my life right now until about a year ago. I'm 28. Patience.
Right.
And it was so random how it happened too. However, and this is like why we would sort of get into pushing people away. The other thing I'd say is like, as far as your your family situation, like it's not your fault. It is absolutely not your fault. We don't have to go into too much details about that. But the more compassion you can give to yourself, and like, you know, you are lovable, you are good enough, there's nothing wrong with me. You know, anything that might resonate as far as those statements go. You know, because like, just from what it sounds like, yeah, you didn't deserve any of that, and it's rough to kind of transition so much. It makes it hard to build relationships, and then stacked on top of the whole gifted conundrum.
Exactly.
Have there ever been situations where maybe there's somebody like perfectly, or not perfect, but like somebody who's like you really jive with, and like they're like a really good person, and like maybe they even want to hang out?
A guy I went to high school with, me and him enlisted together. Friends with him for about fucking 5 years now.
And how often do you talk to each other or hang out?
He's actually getting discharged too. I'll see him probably in a month or two. His is completely separate. His is just chain of command fucked him in the ass, but yeah, we usually talk like a couple times a week.
For those watching, just always keep in mind that guys have a different matrix of sort of talking with each other. It's like actually talking, not as much, but like gaming together or doing stuff like that could be like all the time.
Yes.
But so okay, so is this a friend like you would have your back? You know, like a very close friend.
Yeah, honestly, for once I can say yeah.
And going back to
not 5 years. I was wrong about the dates. It's been 3 years. Just feels like more time.
So going back to the other question of, do you feel supported? And you had said no. And is the reason for this friend not supporting you just because of like you guys dealing with your own lives and figuring things out and just being separated?
It's probably that, and then we both have different goals, so to speak. Like completely separate interests, completely separate lives.
So it's not as though there's no bad blood, but there's also like sort of like if you're on like flat escalators and you're sort of just both, you know, you're just going in separate directions, and you're like, well, hey, I'm on this escalator, you know, I can like text you from over here, but like, you know, we're just kind of, you know, going separate directions.
Yeah.
So it kind of sounds like it sucks that you don't have somebody standing on your escalator, or rather at least one that's like parallel, you know, that just, it doesn't have to be the
Parallel
same
escalator,
path,
yeah.
but it could be like, like you can at least kind of, you know, hop over the rail and hang out, you know, and then like there might be a time where it kind of, they split directions, but like having someone to talk to and support you and, you know, hang out with for even for a little bit would sound like it'd be really nice.
Yeah, honestly, it would.
What's been the most difficult part about having no support for this whole time?
Figuring out my own goals, I guess. My own life, like what I want to do, what my interests are, those kind of things.
So sounds like your direction in life, figuring out what the compass that comes from your heart, taking that out and be like, all right, so where are we going? Figuring out where that is. When we don't have support, we think that some of the problems that we encounter in life would be solved by support, because like fuck it would, like we just haven't had it like almost ever, and like I really want it, and like I feel as though that this would really help the situation. But for what you just said, that comes from within you. And that's going to be something...
Exactly, it needs to have that split though. Like there's times when you need support versus those times you're like, I just gotta fucking figure it out myself.
Yeah. But the cruel part about that is like, other players get heals and healing potions, and you're left with like food scraps. And like you never really heal to full. And you're playing life at like fucking 10% health. And that's fucking stressful. And like, god damn it, somebody give me a heal. Like, where's the fucking medic? Medic! Give me some room to breathe, damn it. But here's the good thing though, is that, you know, you've learned way far in advance in comparison to everybody else that like the challenges in life that require a significantly higher level and will often challenge you by throwing you into it solo require you to know how to use your skills and self-healing abilities really well. And you're learning that right now, which is super unfair for like a relatively new player. But at the same time, when players in games sort of get complacent with you know, having the help of their party members all the time, and they go into like a challenge mode, that's when the light is sort of you know, shined on them to test their might. And
it's like, try soloing the dungeon now, bitch.
Exactly. You're like, I had to fucking solo it, and I couldn't even finish the dungeon until I had fucking grinded for like 3-4 fucking levels, and even then I barely scraped by. And then, you know, after you had sort of caught up with everybody else, which is like the thing that you're sort of in the process of doing, now you're prepared for the harder challenges in life, because like the next time that rolls around, you're like, what you got? I fucking been through this before. Like you can't surprise me. You got nothing. Meanwhile, everybody else who's sort of been, I'm not gonna say dependent or codependent on each other, but just a little bit less self-reliant, they're gonna really struggle. They are really gonna struggle. So as cruel as it was, there's definitely a lot of positives to reflect on that's gonna help you moving into the future. Because you're gonna fucking be the badass solo player that can handle it. But at the same time, as good as you will be, you know, everybody is gonna need some help.
Exactly, it's inevitable. Everybody knows.
You're just looking for your party members and your friends, your guild members,
the guild members.
Yeah. The people that are roughly around the same level or skill levels you are. And because, like, you know, we said before, you want somebody who's roughly on the same escalator path as you, so that, you know, you can support each other and then, you know, not run the risk of sort of like getting too low on health. Eventually we get to a point where our self-healing is like overpowered, but if we're just starting the game, we're kind of not quite there yet. And a lot of people struggle to get over that hump. Thank God for gaming. This makes it so easy to explain. Back on the friend subject, though, is there anyone else who you might have run into, you know, in person or VR chat that you got along with really well, but for some reason that you can't quite understand, you pushed them away?
Everybody on VR chat because I don't touch my computer for months at a time.
Well, I'd say that's just because you're going through life, to be honest. But I more
Yeah.
so meant somebody wanted to be your friend and they wanted to hang out, and you kind of just didn't really, you know, engage.
As far as that, I don't know, honestly. Not really. Because like I'm not referring to online because online it's just like completely different type of scenario.
Mm-hmm.
But like whenever I'm out, whenever I'm doing stuff, it's just like I have people I skate with, I have people I will hang out with, but even at some point I'm just like, alright, bored, I'm annoyed, I'm out.
Has there ever been anyone who you thought would have potential to be a close friend that might support you?
A couple when I was younger, but of course moving.
Have you ever made any conscious effort to build a deeper or closer relationship with anybody? Have you ever had the desire to?
A couple of times, and that just did not pan out the way I had hoped.
So walk us through like one or two of those scenarios. Like what happened?
One was pretty funny. In my opinion, it's fucked up, but it was funny in my opinion. This one guy and I were just bullshitting. We both enjoyed the same video games. Hobbies like playing guitar or shit like that. And then, you know, it's like, we're bullshitting and it pops up. He's a fucking neo-Nazi.
So maybe not the best candidate.
No, he's just like, yeah, you wanna hang out? I'm like, I'm gonna, pass. Hard pass.
And what about the other person?
Kinda similar, just not neo-Nazi, just really fucking racist. I really don't fuck with that. I don't know what I do to attract those type of people. It's just like, I don't like you. Stay over there. Go away.
Well, I'd say you're a very calm, non-judgmental, and easy person to talk to, and it really helps that you're also super intelligent. You can kind of keep up with like whatever somebody is talking about. So like all of those qualities really kind of make it like the perfect concoction for like anyone to feel comfortable around you, and like unhealthy people will flock to you like, you know, moth to a flame, or like
That makes sense.
so
We're like, oh, everybody else hates me, maybe this guy won't.
exactly. I'm not gonna completely rule out that like you might just have shit luck, you know, but there is one thing I'd want to look at is like how often do you sort of get into social situations?
Believe it or not, quite a bit. Like I go skateboarding probably 3 or 4 times a week, even though I work like 12 hours half the time. It's just like, hey, I'm not fucking dropping yet. Let's go. And you know, it's just I'll bullshit with whoever's there, and then it's just I do my own thing.
Now, I've heard people wanting to initiate with you, and I've heard two, you know, not like kind of extreme or just poor examples of like people that you would, you know, or no, for example, like, people that like are definitely not wise to hang out with, or like a bad influence or unhealthy. Have you ever come across somebody who's like relatively healthy that wanted to hang out with you, or you wanted to hang out with them?
Uh, Not really. I'm gonna say the shit luck part was kind of true because usually it's just like, hey, this person's cool. Oh, they're fucking druggy. Not like the down on their luck druggy, more like the high school or party kids.
So it sounds like the hobbies that you like are kind of meshed with the crowd of people that are kind of like a little bit out of your emotional league or under your emotional league. Like they kind of are unhealthy or do reckless things. They drink too much. They smoke too much.
Yeah, I guess it's just like I have nothing against alcohol, pot, but I don't like hard drugs because that's just a potential for disaster, and I really just don't fuck with, vehement racism and sexism.
Yeah, so that's
Just think
perfectly.
it's 2021, man.
That's perfectly reasonable. You're like, you're like the opposite of the analogy of like you're the hay in the needle stack of like the people that you skate with and hang out with. Like, you have nothing against needles, but like you don't want to get stabbed. You know, like you can't get too close.
That's valid.
Where would you find some hay? Where would you like? What situations or environments would you actually find people who aren't needles?
Yeah, that's very astute. Something I'll have to think about.
What are the qualities of a good friend and somebody that like you feel like you would like to get close to? Like what kind of qualities do they have? That way you know exactly when to hang out with somebody or build a relationship with them. Like whenever you come across them.
To that, but I guess for me it's just like a similar versus conflicting interests.
Okay, so have some similar interests, like enough for us to not be.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like a cookie cutter. It just has to be like oh, you like this type of music? Alright, let's bullshit a little bit. Or you play guitar? You wanna fucking, but yeah, I don't know, something like that.
All right, common ground.
And then,
Definitely a good answer.
Yeah, common ground's there we go. Thank you. Somebody not overly political because that shit is just blasted everywhere anymore, and I don't give a fuck.
Wait, overly what? I missed that part.
Political. I hate
Poetical?
every
What?
conversation that politics.
Oh, political. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I hate when conversation devolves into that.
That might be something worth highlighting for just a second. What's specifically unattractive about people who dive into politics too much? Why does that push you away?
It's because usually people are not informed or as informed as they should be on policies, and they look more at the candidate themselves. It's just all fine and good, but if you're gonna drive like a spear into their chest, at least know what they stand for.
So, sounds like, and what I would add on to that is it's frustrating to talk to somebody who does not do their due diligence, and when you suspect somebody hasn't done their due diligence, it leads to suspected, like, doing more damage than good, because it's like if you don't know what you're talking about, how do you even know if what you're doing
If you don't know
is a good
what
thing?
you're talking about or voting for, then why vote? Why talk? It's just like you don't know what you're saying, so why open your mouth?
What other qualities are a part of a good friend that you'd want to hang out with? Someone who would support you.
Someone who can
They said common
get
ground.
get to being focused on like their goals, not like held back by by pretty much anything. Really. It's just that you're feeling like you're being held back by whatever is restricting you. You have the power to change that.
Okay, so
If you're
that
working to move,
sounds like
I drive. There we go. Drive.
yeah.
Trying to
Yeah.
fucking.
So you like people who are ambitious, who have drive, and they're not. It sounds like you really don't like quitters. You like people who persevere and and actually put a pep in their step and take responsibility, and don't let anything hold them back.
Yeah, it's something about being adamant like that I really respect. It's just like not settling for stagnation.
Yeah, actually, would you say that you want to grow with the people you're close to?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fantastic standard to have. Something that people unfortunately don't understand too well. They think relationships and friendships just magically happen. But no, that's not the case. You're gonna get really hurt if you believe that. Understand where they're at mentally and where they are at, as far as ambitions go. That way you don't have this expectation of like, hey, so we're gonna, be able to support each other, but like the second the escalators start, like you move together for like 2 seconds and then it's just like, oh whoa. Bye.
The hand gestures did it, yep. It's like for me, I wanna progress at my job. Like I'm already looking to me for a promotion, which is fucking phenomenal, but I wanna open like my own guitar shop within 5 years. Like I set goals and timelines, and if I see they're unreasonable for that timeline due to like restriction, like building guitar, I need equipment. If I'm restricted on the equipment, I'll push the timeline back until I'm able to get that equipment, and I'll set up other goals in its place to work towards accomplishing that.
Despite you having to refill your cup, as far as like managing the whole stress issue goes, like your cup is actually fairly full most of the time. But yeah, of course it's really frustrating that you have to keep refilling it because, you're having to grind and it sucks being underleveled, but like you're doing pretty well. You have the skills and you're working on the self-healing, and you got, it's like, so if you were in a game and like most people, their map is like severely undiscovered, like you have waypoints and a lot of key parts on the map, like important parts, you have those discovered, so like where you're going. And like you keep discovering more of the map, and like that helps you figure out like who you are and like what you like and what your interests are, what you don't like too. For an image, I want you to imagine that like if you had like a 9 square map, right, and you find something that you like, it like that will reveal like 1 square of the map. But if you find something you don't like, that tends to reveal 4 squares.
That's valid. I get what you're saying.
That's something I've heard a lot of people describe in different ways. This also reminds me of like Minesweeper too.
Minesweeper's fun, dude.
Yeah. And that's as much as I really could say for like finding direction. You could take personality tests and get some clues and stuff there, but at the end of the day, experiential learning is like your strongest asset. And don't be afraid to do things you don't like, for sure. Like you've tried a bunch of different things, like, okay, yeah, you know you don't like something, so like don't go there again. But like if you haven't tried like almost anything, it's definitely something worth looking into. But like you got goals, you're good to go. It sounds like you're just kind of, you know, working on the adjustment, and like who the fuck would blame you for like stressing the fuck out and going, you know, crazy with, you know, being so close to death for like so many years with like no healer. Like that's completely fucking reasonable to be like stressed the fuck out and super anxious and eventually, you know, kind of get to a dark place. Like I experienced the same thing as well. So definitely a lot of positive, you know, positives for the future. So common ground, drive. What else? Yeah. Someone you can grow. Common ground. Someone you can grow with. What else would a good friend have? Or what other qualities would a good friend have?
A balance of empathy and apathy.
Empathy and apathy?
There has to be times where you just don't give a shit. You give too much of a shit, you get trapped into some stupid shit. Like supportive to a point, like not clingy in that sense, but like, yeah, man, I'm here for you, but if you do such and such, you're on your own.
Oh, so somebody who has very rigid and unreasonable standards.
Like if you fucking burn down a church, you're on your own.
Well, I mean, I think most people probably wouldn't hang out with somebody who burned down a church. Unless they also burned down churches.
For any of you Swedish black metal fans out there, Varg Vickners.
Well, okay, so I'm still trying to figure out like what you mean by that. Then
it kind of came out the wrong way. It's just like,
do you mean somebody
setting limitations, I guess?
Accepting, or like you don't want to feel restricted or controlled?
Yeah, that's probably a better way to put it.
There's a delay.
Yeah,
right?
That was just like me thinking like, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It's not as though we, you know, people in general don't want, I mean, not everybody. Some people have taken a dark path, like, and they're not breaking out of it, but the majority of people do want to get better and they do care. It just might take, you know, a second for them to make improvements, and it's okay to communicate things that bother you, but not to like completely like flip somebody over sideways and with demands of change, you know, that are like super stressful or like too much pressure. So yeah, so it sounds as though like just wanting somebody who just accepts you. Okay, I mean, like, yeah, those are three solid things. I would also add, like, you know, they're trustworthy, they're reliable. When you said, you know, empathetic, I'd probably add, like, yeah, compassionate. They're chill, they're understanding, they're accepting. So now you have like a variety of check boxes to sort of look at when you're hanging out with people. And because you learned that it's not a good idea to really get attached to anybody because of moving so many times and then in the military and other things, I'm willing to believe that maybe you have come across people, or that you definitely will, and it might feel strange or uncomfortable to like contemplate building a friendship with them, because what you learned is like, that's not a good idea and I'm gonna get hurt, and like the last time I did that, like they passed away. So like,
Yeah.
that fucking sucked, and like, why would I want to put myself through that again? But not like, you can't go without your healer, man. You just can't.
I mean, it's like a, you build up the barriers, but you have to learn how to take them down.
And like, in the future and other difficult things in life, yeah, like you will have to be on your own. But like for now, while you're leveling up, you need some support. You need your healer. If you had to give like advice, guidance, or a statement to everybody, like what would you tell them?
Honestly, the best advice I wish somebody had given me before would be to find yourself before you find others. Find your fucking hobbies, find what makes you you, find what makes you the happiest, and hope somebody has the same ideas.
There you go, you got 2 now. Wait, what if you... Oh, you
Go
can't... Oh, you can't grab 2 at the same time.
Oh.
Oh. Is it even possible?
Yeah, I did the first one I did.
Let's see.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh. Oh. If you just do it as fast as you can, eventually you'll get it.
It's gonna be a competition one day.
Yeah, fucking bottle flipping in VR. It's harder than it looks.
Oh, doesn't count. No, that's gone. Yeah. Oh.
This is actually really entertaining.
This.
Oh! Oh, there it is. Off the wall. We'll take it. We'll take it. All right.